Oh, it's Edge Radio Australia, time for a show that we basically bring an expert in, okay? And why I bring the expert is he actually brought me paperwork to help me out. Mr. Wealth by Design himself, Jeff Bowman, mate, great to have you here.
Lovely to be here, Aaron. Lovely to be here.
Now, why I go straight to the cheat sheet is because you have brought in some information today that has blown my mind. Now, I've only got some of it here, but the stuff that I've read, I am really glad you brought this up because this is totally elephant in the room stuff. This is the stuff that we should be talking about, and we just don't, do we? Right?
We don't.
There lies the problem, right?
Easy to kick the can down the road, as they say, Aaron.
Very, very true. I mean, look, we don't talk about, finances, sex, politics and religion. I think that's probably the list. But one of them we've got to talk about here is retirement, which is the money one, right?
It's the big money one.
It really is. And I'm going to jump straight into it, but I want to say this. I think that all of us see ourselves a little bit invincible, right?
Yes.
I sit here, I'm in my early 50s. Retirement's not that far away, theoretically. I don't know if I'll ever retire, but just theoretically.
Yeah.
And you know why I won't probably retire? Because I don't have a decent plan. Because I haven't put that. I mean, I had when I was younger. I had a plan, and life had other plans and changed things for me.
Yes.
As that tends to happen, right? But as I'm reading here, and you've blown me away with the stat, and I want to talk about this because you're the man with the knowledge on this one. Is it right? So
63%.
63. We'll call it 2/3 of people, right, are going to retire on essentially the old age pension, right?
Yeah. Okay, so 63% of all Australians at pensionable age, which is currently 67.
Okay.
Right. But the government stats are that 63% of Australians over 65, right, are all qualifying for the old age pension. Yeah. And so and the old age pension is means tested. And so it's something like roughly half of that is the full pension and roughly half of that is the concessional pension. So like part pensions.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, but on the full pension, let's talk about 50% of the population here, okay? So we all know that the cost of living has just shot up. It's unbelievable now, and it's just getting worse and worse.
Yes,
right?
it is.
This is something we see every day. It is affecting us in very real terms. In a very simple term, I'm having to the amount of fuel that I'm spending now is making me cry.
I know,
right? And the same vehicle, I haven't changed the vehicle, and the fuel bills have just gone up. Literally, I'm literally paying now twice essentially what I was paying in fuel from what I was 5 or 4 years ago.
4 years ago, without a doubt, yeah.
Absolutely insane. So, taking that into account, what I'm getting at is the money that you thought you put aside for your retirement, or you've been putting aside, and you're building up your super, you're doing the right things. It's just getting smaller and smaller, actually the spending ability of it. So you need more, obviously. So if you want to maintain a lifestyle, right, or enjoy your retirement and not just simply survive, 50% of the population, half of the population is going to be in utter struggle street.
Totally, yeah.
And that is depressing.
It is depressing, yeah. I mean, the government are currently saying, oh, look, it's going to be okay, but the average Australian will retire on around 70 grand a year, right?
Okay.
And as soon as you hear that, you think, oh, that's sort of reasonable. Kids are off my hands. I'm debt free and no mortgage. But of course, the proviso there for that 70,000 annual salary is that A, you're 67 or older. That's a critical date because that's when the old age pension cuts in.
Sure.
So the 70 grand is predicated on, one, you being 67 and entitled to the old age pension.
Sure.
And you've got $690,000 in super already. Yeah. So that's right. And so the 690 grand actually is got to get the first tick on that. And that's a bit of a tough one because the average Australian male only retires on 450,000 of super.
So you're basically 2/3 there. I mean, it's a big gap.
Big gap. And so the 70 grand really is half old age pension and half from 35 grand-ish from your $690,000 worth of super.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So So that's that's the numbers, and of course a lot of people don't even have 690 grand in super. We know I just told you what the average age, the average amount is, and women are less. I mean, they're about 330,000 a year in super on average retirement when the women retire.
Sure,
blokes are
as a total, not a year. So
as an average across their total superannuation asset value.
Yep.
In their 1 or 2 or 3 super funds, because most people have got more than one.
Yeah, of course.
Because they move around with industry super funds.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's quite damning, and it is a concern, and it's one of the big things that people push the can down the road on, because they'll go, look, I'm pretty bloody busy with everything at the moment.
Yep.
You know, I'll think about that later. Financial planners are really expensive, so look, I'll put that off. And of course, we've had the Royal Commission a few years ago that sort of disenfranchised a lot of people from the advice space because of cost.
That's a brilliant point, and you're right, because it's just all the changes just push the cost up massively. Out of the reach of most everyday Aussies, without doubt. Okay, well, quite frankly, out of the hands of everybody who's not of means, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So
and us and them.
These statements of advice that you've got to pay, you never. A statement of advice is a document that's got to be paid for when you go and see a licensed financial advisor, and I mean they range in price now from anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000. After tax, you can't even get a tax deduction for them.
What?
No, they're a capital item. Yeah, and
you're kidding me.
No, that's right. Yeah. So it's an after tax expense, and people go, oh God, you know, it's a lot of money, and I might not like the advisor, or I might not be getting the value. So a lot of people are holding back, and they miss out on just a lot of really, really key fundamental stuff like super, you know.
Yeah.
Are you maximising your contribution to super? Well, no. Do you know what they are? No.
Well, look, since we've been talking, like the amount of things that I've learned about super that I just had no idea of, and I'm fairly financially sort of educated, I guess. There seems to be so many ways, again, to maximise it, right? And it's important to do that. Like, you know, when you're doing things, you need to be efficient about it, okay? You can't just, you know, throw it out willy-nilly. You've got to be efficient about it. Otherwise, you won't be successful with it, right?
Correct.
So you've got to get the advice because you just don't know if you don't know, right? So you've got
to get the knowledge because anyone can go to their payroll department.
Yep.
They don't need a financial advisor and say, look, I've done my numbers. I'm on 100 grand. You're already putting in 11,500 because it's 11.5% now the employer puts in.
Yep.
So I can put the rest in up to 30 grand, right? And get a full tax deduction for it. And you can go to your payroll master and go, hey, look, can you do this? Can I put another 10 grand into super? And they go, yeah, sure, no worries. Fill this form out, tick. And
that easy?
That's easy, yeah. And that just goes into their default super fund.
Okay,
and they can do that themselves. They don't need an advisor for that.
Okay, and that will bring your tax down. Okay, just in very, very simple terms. And I mean, I'm not obviously this is not financial advice. We're
Definitely
having a
not. I'm not an advisor. We don't give advice these days. We just give education and training, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's why I'm sort of throwing as a layperson. So effectively, if you're going to put another $10,000, the average person would get effectively a $3,000 tax break for that.
It's based on their tax rate.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So if they're on say 32 cents in the dollar tax rate, and they put in 10 grand into super, they're not going to pay 3,200 in tax.
Spot on.
And so the money that they're not paying in tax is got to go somewhere. Where's it going? Obviously into super. You don't get it to spend it on groceries, so you've got to do your budgets and make sure
make sure you can actually afford to do it.
Yeah, and of course you pay a 15% contributions tax out of your super fund, where those super contributions have been claimed as a deduction by either your employer or yourself. And so you've got to take 15 from 32, but hey, 17% is not bad.
Look, 17% is still 17%, right? Like, ultimately, that's still money in your pocket. And at a time of your life when you're going to need it, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. So, and that whole compound growth thing, so we're saying really to pre-retirees, where most of our communication is with the pre-retirees that are going, well, kids are nearly off their hands, you know, Sally's got in year 12, she's nearly done. Fred's bloody at uni, so, you know, he's just out living with his mates. So some of the pressure's coming off the household budget. So most of these guys are going, I really should look at what's going on.
Oh, look, you get a teenage boy out of the house, well, instantly your budget's gone up hugely, just the food, right? So put that into your super, just that, and you retire very comfortable.
I know, and that is all just about knowledge, the biggest culprits in this super area are self-employed people.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're not, if they're running a trust or a partnership, they're not compliant to put super in by law.
Of course.
They don't have to.
Yep.
If they're paying themselves a salary through their own company, well, yes, they've got to, and they do. But so many self-employed people are not incorporated.
That's right. And they're so focused on their business, right?
Yeah.
That, again, I'll get to that. Yeah, it's on the never, right?
Yeah. Or they are employed by themselves through a company or a trust, and they're paying their superannuation guarantee levy. Mm-hmm. But, of course, their accountants will often be going, well, let's just keep your taxable income down as low as possible. We've got to save tax. We'll do the distributions later. We'll work out all the tax deductions through your business to minimise your tax. So then they might be going, oh, well, they're paying us 70 grand a year, so they're only getting, 11.5% of 7, right, into super, and the maximum they can put in is 30.
Yeah.
It's a big difference between sort of
huge
6, 7.5 and 7 and 30.
Yeah, of course.
And that bit often never gets put in by the employer because they'll spend that money on new equipment. Like, look at that magnificent equipment over there, Aaron, you've got there. That cost you $1,000, that flash camera.
Yes.
So then these guys are at their sort of mid-40s, late 40s, early 50s are going, well, might have listened to the Three Wise Money Men on 720,
Yeah.
Those guys, they provide great information. It's a fabulous sort of informative money show, got an enormous following with the ABC viewers.
Yep.
Mind you, I think ABC viewers are only about 3% of
There's
overall viewers. Not a lot.
I think it's about 1.2.
1.2, yeah. So there you go. Great information, but only 1.2 of the viewing or the listening public get access to that info, right?
Yeah. And when you break down the numbers of that, you're watching that particular show on those particular hours, it's not a lot of people.
Not a lot of people get access to good information. And so it is a real concern that many are going to have to rely. At the end of the day, they're going to go, crikey, Dick, I'm 67. I'm old enough to apply for the pension. I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah.
Because I need the extra 30 to 40 to 50 grand. And that number of 690,000 is interesting because that's for the government saying you'll get 70 grand a year in income as long as you've got a 690 account balance in super.
And the pension on top.
And the pension's part of that. It's not on top, right? So you go, you need the pension of around 35 to 40 grand to supplement the 30 or 40 grand you're going to get from your 690,000 of super. Yep. So that's what's combined. But of course, the pension's been tested. So at 450,000 in super assets, that 41,000 for a couple gets pared back.
Okay.
Yeah. So you
now, is the family home exempt from that?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
That's good to hear.
Yep.
So we try and engage our clients in more of a robust discussion of other options to help look at solutions, because all very well having all the scary stuff and then having no solutions, because that's just terrible. You can't. You got to give people hope. So there's a lot of creative work. Or sort of intelligent work, not so much creative. Creative is an impression. It's might be risky, but it's not. It's just an intelligent approach to
just knowledge of the system.
Property investments, right? Okay. So I had a great chat last night to a property valuer at a organisation I'm a sponsor of. Very highly credentialed property valuer, and he works with with investors, and they'll find a block of land at the right price, and they'll do all the town planning assessments, and they go, right, well, we can put this and this on this and maximise the rental returns. And some of these rental returns are, they're not 3% net like most poor people in residential investment property. They've got 8, 9, 10, 12%. It's
a massive difference.
Like 3 times.
Yeah.
So if you can pull one of those together with the right advice, and by the way, a financial advisor can't even do that. Their approved product lists and their rules and regulations prevent them giving that type of consultancy service.
Okay.
So it's got to be independent. It's like us, like we do that.
Sure.
We work with the town planners. And so, okay, righto, well, if I can increase my retirement income to $100,000 on $1 million property, tax-free through super, then 30,000, which is taxable because the property is owned by mum and dad as a jointly owned asset,
Right.
then that's a restructure at two levels. One, the ownership of the property is changing ownership,
Right.
or it's sold because you own it yourself.
Okay.
You might pay some capital gains tax. You might be able to offset some of those capital gains tax liabilities with extra contributions to super. You can catch up some of the past contributions to super you haven't been paid if you can come into some money. And then you can go, right, well, let's buy another property, but let's make sure it's inside super, inside a self-managed super fund. And so it's a structural thing you can do, which is smart, intelligent restructuring, and then find the right asset to put in there. And then all of a sudden you might be going from 30 taxable to 100 non-taxable. Like, it's massive.
Of course it is.
You'll change people's lives with that.
Many years ago, I was investing in some property developments that were going on. And it was literally, they were basically building capital. So I had a little bit of capital, certainly not enough to go and buy a property of my own, just to buy a percentage of some properties that were being done. Now, these companies were, you're dealing with bricks and mortar, so, there's that level of security there, but it's still speculative, right?
Yes.
But where I'm going to go on this is that they were able to turn properties over 3 times a year at 15%, right? Okay, and, it was great to be a part of that, except I wish I'd known more back then. I wish I'd had the knowledge to know that I could actually have been using that productively and turning that into some form of super, right? Yep. If I'd done that, like, I could have right then, when you're having, because everybody has golden periods of their life, I guess, patches where things kind of, you're doing financially better or whatever. It would have been great to have actually used that at that time to actually think about my future. And again, my lack of knowledge, I didn't have that. I was kind of like living in the now. It was very short-sighted. Is what I'm getting at.
I know, and you can't live in regret, but you can learn from your mistakes, and you can go, well, God, you're only a youngster, mate. You're only 50, so think in terms of what you could do in 15 years, right?
Yep.
Because the compound can work fabulously,
Certainly
especially if you're getting a decent return. And all of a sudden, you'll go from being pension dependent to being no way qualified for pension because you've got 1 to 1.5 mil in super assets.
See, and that's
all achievable. It's all achievable.
And I'd far rather be in that situation where I've got control of my own future. This is not about being overzealous and being, wanting a big bank account or anything like that, or, fancy this, fancy that. This is about literally having the protection and the safety and the freedom to do what you want to do with your life. Make your own decisions, not go, the government are giving me X, Y, Z. This is what I can do with X, Y, Z. No, you know what? I'd rather get rid of the government. The government spends far too much time in my life as it is. I would like to get rid of them completely in every way that I can. And then, literally have that independence. So this is such an important thing, I think, for so many people, because a lot of people see it as being greedy. It's far from that. It is buying freedom. Get yourself. You might be able to retire in a better place. You can go. You might want to go and live a very simple lifestyle. I mean, I talk about lots of our listeners and viewers. Say, I'd love a hobby farm. I'd love to get out there. I want to grow my own veggies, live a very simple life. Well, that's a beautiful dream. It's a fantastic thing. It also costs a lot of money to set up.
I know,
right?
Yeah.
So that little hobby farm where you're growing your own veggies, the infrastructure is not cheap.
No.
So being able to do something like this, you can actually afford that kind of dream. Whereas if you're on the pension, not a chance.
Dead right.
Not going to happen.
You've got to. Is it all possible, technically possible, intellectually realistic? Then you've got to go right. I've got 12 years to have a crack at this.
Sure.
Or 15 or 17. I had a clinical psychologist the other day go, well, Jeff, I'm 55. I've only got 80 grand in super. And I know I've got to work to 70, but I need to do more than just, the basics. Have you got any ideas? And so, sure. I mean, we're going to see what we can do about making more contributions into a self-managed super fund. As I said, I'm not a licensed advisor, so we bring in the licensed financial advisors to do that.
Yeah, you're about the connection. Right?
It's all about the connection. So I know the right guys to go to, and they'll go, yep, no worries, Jeff. give us the full brief, and then they do it. So it's all done correctly for the client with the right protection in place, because if the financial advisors cocks it up, they've got professional indemnity insurance.
Yeah, they do.
And all that protection. So you don't go to someone that, you don't do it yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, try and penny pinch. You don't do that. You pay the money, get a financial advisor to do the work for you. And then in this particular case, he's a paramedical, and his wife also is the same.
Okay.
And they
Good income? Yeah.
Good income,
Yeah, no question.
Pay each other about a salary of about $300,000 a year. But they said, look, we pay about $40,000 in rent for our other offices. Now, other people own those offices. Other people are landlords that we're paying our rent to. Why couldn't we actually get our own medical practice property, commercial property? And I said, you can. I said, oh yeah, we saw that on some money show. I said, you can definitely do that. You just got to be guided on how to do it. And pay the $40,000 to your own self-managed super fund.
Correct.
Still pay the same rent. Yeah. But don't give it to someone else. Give it to yourself.
Oh, look, absolutely. This is something that, that we've been talking about for a while, because, again, it's controlling your own destiny. You're going to have to spend this money anyway.
Yep.
So, in the great words of old, Kerry Packer, that, they don't spend it terribly wisely. So, I think that taking control of your own finances from the point of view, and when I say that, again, get the advice. Get the advice. Be linked up with the right people who are going to give you the right advice.
Yes.
This is absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the subject a little bit, if I may. I want to throw you a curly one. Because of this show, obviously people ask me questions all the time that are completely out of my pay grade. So I like to sort of ask them, and obviously you could probably link me with other people on this one. But I was asked about people. Now, this guy has been a subcontractor for a company for many, many years. Very long time, probably, I'm going to guess probably 15 years. And that, as a subcontractor, there was no I don't know if it's still the case, but I know early on it was definitely there's no super involved whatsoever. So he was in charge of his own super. Is that still the case?
Still the case, yeah.
Yeah, look, I thought so. I just wasn't sure from the conversation.
Yeah, so he was a sole trader or partnership.
Sole trader, I believe. Yeah.
Then there is the employee, the head contractor that contracts his subcontracting services.
Yes.
So he might be the plumber or a boilermaker or electrician.
Yep.
They just pay them an hourly rate. $80 an hour, that's what you get.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And it's the responsibility of that contractor to pay money into their super fund. That's what I was saying earlier. So many self-employed people are the worst culprits when it comes to putting money into super.
Well, just talking to this guy, 15 years, as I say, and so it's a bit of an estimate, long time job. I don't think he's paid a single cent into super in that time. And that's terrifying, because he's now mid-50s.
Yeah, and he's been paying tax, right?
Oh, absolutely.
He's been a good income earner.
Yeah.
So he's paid a fortune in tax.
That's right.
And it's just terrible that these wasted opportunities constantly come up. And so...
Well, he found himself in that position because of the fact that he had no one to tell him that what he was doing was not the efficient way of doing it. He had no advice, right? And we had a fairly lengthy conversation. He said, financial advice, can't afford one of those. And I get that, but maybe, with the money that he's effectively been wasting in tax all of these years, maybe it would have been a very, very wise investment. Rather than a cost, it's an investment.
It's an investment. For God's sake, it's an investment. At the most basic level, you walk up to a bank and you go, right, look, I want to set up a super fund account. Right?
Yeah, okay.
And they will provide you a very simple product and you can tip it in.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you just have, you say, I want 15% of my income to go in there. Right.
Yeah, you just make the contribution yourself. In the old days, is only a few years ago, for an employee to make a contribution, it had to be a salary sacrifice through super.
Sure.
But now they can just make a one-off contribution, on the 29th of June.
Okay.
They just put it in.
Right.
And they're nominating that it's a concessional contribution as opposed to non-concessional. So tax deductible as opposed to non-tax deductible. And so it's just, these, and it's not just the tradies, it's across the board.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of professional people that are self-employed.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Have opted not to take advice for a range of reasons. cost or trust, because not all financial advisors are switched on. Some of them miss things,
Right.
and they'll go for the low-hanging fruit under their advice, but they'll miss proper strategic advice and asset ownership.
Okay. Now, you've just hit a word that I was actually going to ask you about, okay? Strategy, okay,
Yep.
on this. So, yeah, this is something that you don't do willy-nilly. Anything in life you really want to achieve something, you've got to have a plan, a strategy.
Yep.
So, getting the right advice and putting this all down on paper and having somebody who will hold your hand, for want of a better term, okay, that is a great strategy. And I think you need to look at it that way. I think you've got to look at. I'm going to use two words here, okay, that we've already said in the last sort of couple of minutes, okay. Strategy is incredibly important, and spending this money as an investment.
Yes.
Okay, spending the money on advice is something you buy. If you go and buy, I don't know, whatever you go to buy, you buy a car, you buy this, you buy that, right? They're lovely assets. Well, I'll tell you right now, advice is an asset. You're paying for somebody's the hard work, their expertise. It's important to do.
You're investing in yourself.
You are, yeah.
And people spend a lot of money on personal development courses.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of money on, alternative health remedies or going to the doctor or whatever,
So many things.
And that's money you spend on yourself. But people are so reluctant to spend money on themselves when it comes to, proper guidance, support and advice.
Yeah.
Also there's a bit of an issue there.
Okay.
There are a lot of people that purport to be financial wizards, but they're not. And that's very concerning for a lot of people.
It's very concerning.
Because they'll go, I found out it's a scam, right? And it is.
Of course.
And they go, oh, God. I had a woman in my office the other day. I said, oh, Jeff, you've explained things so well in the last half an hour that we want to come and book a time to see you, because the last 3 financial advisors that we paid for, we walked away from the whole 3 of them because we didn't fully understand what was going to happen. Yeah. But we paid the money up front and we just became so disillusioned.
Well, there's a bit of intellectual gameplay about that, right? They like to use a lot, and this is every industry. I'm not having a go at financial planners by any stretch of measure. But a lot of people who have qualifications, they feel that they like to, they like to show you they've got those qualifications. They like to use all these short little buzzwords and all those kind of things that we don't know about in our particular profession.
Yep.
And it makes you feel alienated. So when, someone sits down with you and you actually say things in everyday language, right?
Yes.
The same way you and I would have a conversation in a pub,
yep.
right? That's how I want it. That's that plain English.
Yep.
And
you can still do it on the back of a cigarette, on a cigarette packet. Well, that's not very popular these days.
Not these days.
There's not a lot of those around. A lot of serviettes. So
a lot of serviettes.
Give us a serviette.
That's right.
You can explain on a serviette how salary sacrifice of super works.
Look, I'll tell you what.
Like I said, it's like but they go, oh, is that how it works?
Yeah. Hey, back of a serviette, I'll tell you what, some very worldwide things have happened on that. Do you know that the Volkswagen Combi was designed on the back of a serviette?
Get out of it.
There you go, right? That's the truth of the matter.
Is that right?
So, yeah. That certainly changed the world. It's brilliant, mate. Okay. And again, it comes back to wherever you are in your life, forget, your different ages and all of that kind of thing. But whatever stage you're at, what levers can I pull? Okay, to go. Okay, because sometimes I might, like where I am in life right now, I'm going to have to pull a lever that's got a big acceleration on it. Whereas if I was 22, hey.
Yeah. Okay, there's 3 levers. Mm-hmm. There's 3 key levers.
Okay.
One is strategic structuring of the ownership of your assets.
Right.
Okay. And I touched on that before. So, I've got $1 million property. I get $780 a week rent.
Yep.
That's 40 grand a year. Take off expenses, 32 grand a year.
Okay.
$1 million, 32 grand, 3.2% ish.
Ish. Yep.
So you go, so if I restructured the ownership of that property, somehow could with engineering and the proper strategy, because it's that you got to know how to do it. But I could end up with a property in my self-managed super fund, right? That gives me $90,000 or $100,000 a year income, but not taxable. Because a lot of people get confused about the superannuation and age of retirement and the old age pension.
Okay.
So at age 60, you get access to your super. if you're not working and you're retired,
Okay.
and all that money inside the super fund, if you had a massive capital gain, you sold the asset, there's no tax.
Right.
So you paid $500,000 for a property
Yep.
at 55, and at 61, you sell it for $1 million. Do you pay tax on the 600,000? No, it's tax free. Like, it's unbelievable, right?
And that's $200,000. Okay, in very limited
you
tax.
saved $200,000 in capital gains tax, and so you go,
Huge.
wow,
difference.
is that possible? Is it legal? Of course it is. That's how the system works.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, in all governments, Labor, Liberal, black, white or brutal, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they can't afford to have unlimited people on the pension.
No, no
It's
way in the world.
expensive because not just the pension, they get concessions and all their medication, their public transport, their rah. And so if they can have self-funded retirees, the more the better.
Right.
Because it is not a drain on the public purse.
Sure.
So that's why you can have the most amazingly, on the surface, generous superannuation tax concessions.
Okay.
So no capital gains tax after 60 and no tax on the earnings. So if you're getting the dividends, all right, on your
Sure.
shares,
Yep.
you're getting rent on your property,
Yep.
that's all dividends or income. No tax after 60. And so you go 30 grand taxable because the property's in my own name,
Yep.
or you change the ownership structure of the asset and go, oh, there's a way to have $1 million worth of property in super. It's not just flicking it in. It's you've got to do it within all the rules.
Of course.
And you've got to know how the rules work because you can't stuff it up. Because there's penalties. You either do it legally or you don't do it at all because major problems if you don't do
Of
it
course.
properly.
And you
right?
want a nice, calm retirement. You don't want to be chasing your tail.
Yeah, because the ultimate penalty for the ATO that can land on you for being in breach of how you run your super, is 50% of the value of the super fund. That's the ultimate penalty. It's massive.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can't cock it up. And so a technical term, Adrian, that's technical term. And so and then that's one lever. So structure of property assets. Sure. Another lever is higher performing assets, and I touched on that before.
Yep.
Go from 30 grand to 80 or 90 or 100 grand.
Yep.
That's higher income producing assets. Now, we've got a lot of people we're working with in crypto.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of them they're referred to us by their accountants.
Is that right?
Yeah, because the accountants are going, hey, Jeff, you've got to talk to this bloke. Why is that? Well, he's got $500,000 in crypto and he's got them on a couple of thumb drives and on some exchange, and we hear all the exchanges get hacked. So it's a bit unsafe. So we send them over and you might be able to recommend a platform that's got full insurance, right?
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, we touched on this before. And so the crypto side is interesting because the very wealthy have been doing this for quite a while now.
Of course.
Because they're very well informed.
Yeah.
The very wealthy. The 1%, as we call them. They've got their own boats, their own jets, and they've got millions. And so they've been doing alternative assets for a long time. That's hedge funds, debt funds, some of the blue chip cryptos. But our clients can get access to that now on safe platforms.
That's the difference.
And that's the difference. And so look, Bitcoin, before the last big jump from around 65,000 US to 90,000 today,
Yes.
basically within a week since Donald Trump got in, funnily enough.
What a coincidence. Yes.
Yeah. So diversification of assets is a commonly known good thing to do. Don't put all your eggs in one basket,
Of course.
so to speak.
No doubt about that.
But some of the smart people are going, hang on, this crypto is not all a scam. There's actually quality assets that I can understand. They're really software companies, a lot of these blue chip cryptos.
Yeah, of course.
They're software businesses.
where it
And
is.
you go, righto, well, where do I get the knowledge? Which are the good ones? How do I set them up safely? They can come and see us.
Right.
We do that at Wealth by Design now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because we can do it because it's education and training. It's not advice.
Right.
But when I was a licensed financial planner, I could never even talk about it.
No, I know. And this is a great
but I can
advantage
now.
of you
I can
not
now.
being in, you're not restricted anymore. You haven't got the handcuffs on.
That's right.
Of
Yeah.
that.
That's not illegal,
No.
but it's legal. But it's you're not constrained by the very, very strict constraints because it's still an unregulated crypto.
Look, we've seen over the last, we'll keep saying this, but over the last 4 years, we've seen how many professional organisations, how restrictive they are of the people who are part of that, right? Okay, we've seen in the medical profession, obviously, we've seen it in the financial industries as well. So, yeah, breaking free of that has actually given you so much more scope.
Totally, yeah. And, like a BHP is doing 8% or 10% return, including dividends, average for the last 10 years.
Yep.
Even before Bitcoin's recent jump from 65K US, for 10 years, its average annual compound growth had been 45%, right? So, and it's a storage of...
And we're talking about, with Bitcoin, it's about a 48% jump in a week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the norm, but,
And you'll have people go, well, hang on a minute, I've missed the boat. Why would you say that? You said that when it was $5 when you could have bought it at $2.
That's right.
And you said it when it was $30,000, you should have bought it at $18,000. I've missed the boat. But what if it's true that a lot of the punters are suggesting that, okay, it's $100,000 Aussie at the moment.
Sure.
What if it goes to $1 million?
Yeah, what if it does?
You don't need $1 million for one Bitcoin. You can just buy 50 grand's worth.
So how many decimal points does it go back? You did tell me.
8.
So there's no reason in the world you can't go, hey, I want to go buy $50 worth of Bitcoin.
Totally.
Get in the game.
Totally. You can start with $50 and put it on a safe platform that's got full custody protection.
Sure.
And get a bit of education on how to do it. I had some guy referred by one of your colleagues on this show who runs a fantastic education for crypto, Brandon from Orange Brink Road.
Yeah, Orange Brink Road. Fantastic.
Great organisation. They do a fabulous job. But this guy phoned him up and said, hey, look, I've got 35 grand's worth of Bitcoin and I'm in a bit of a panic because I didn't know how to sell it. And then he said, I want to see if I can buy a property, self-managed super fund. And Brandon went, oh, sorry, mate, there's only so much I can do.
Right.
And you've got to talk to someone else. But there was a classic case of ownership because this guy's 55 and I said to him, what name is the Bitcoin in? He said, my name. Oh, okay, good. I said, now, do you know how capital gains tax works? No idea. Brilliant clinical psychologist. No idea about money.
No,
nothing.
Often very, very different sort of philosophies.
And not on his own. Right. Like they're out there with 90% of Australians. Yeah. And so I said, here's an idea. This gets back to the old asset structure thing. That 35 grand now has come back to about par value because it went down to about 18,000. He panicked.
Okay.
Oh my God, I've got to tell my wife I've just bought this Bitcoin thing that's gone from 35 grand down to 18. But now it's back to where it is, where he paid for it. And I said, what about if that actually doubles or triples in value between now and when you get to, say, 60 plus?
Sure.
What would you do? He said, I'd sell it and make a profit. I said, okay. Well, but what if, but you have to pay tax on the profit, won't you? He said, yeah, I think so. How does that work? Right. No idea. NFI, mate. NFI. And so I said, what about this? What about your self-managed super fund that you're going to use to buy your medical practice? Actually own some Bitcoin as well.
Yeah.
So if it goes from 35 grand to 100 grand 3 times and you made a bit of a profit, if you're over 60, what happens then? He said, oh, tell me again. I said, no tax. And so
it's just, look, it's about knowing, it's almost like, okay, please indulge me here. It's like when you're dropping the ping pong balls in the clowns, right? Okay, honestly, if it gets in the right ones, it comes down to like government regulation, right? If it falls into the right slots, you don't pay any tax, so you get looked after. If it goes in the other, say goodbye. I mean, that's pretty much, and you feel like a clown, right?
Yeah. So we're loving a ball with this because it's so current. Yeah. Trying to find the right property with the right returns because you can deal with the right professional people that really know what they're doing.
Of course. Find
the property at the right price, find the right property valuers, the right town planners to get the planning right. You can do all that and you can, it's not cookie cutter and it's not high volume, but you can find those little diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
And you can do the same in the crypto world. And once again, asset structure and asset ownership.
Sure.
So strategy, structure, owner of assets. Who is best to own these assets? Basically, as much as your super can own, the better.
I didn't know this. I mean, this is a big deal because capital gains tax ruins everything. It's a big killjoy of any investment, right? You've made, you've worked so hard and you've made the right choices. You've doubled your money, whatever, and then hang on, okay, it's just Albanese cruises in and go, no worries, mate. We'll have that. We don't bother yourself with half of that profit. It's quite, it's incredibly disappointing. When you can do it and you can do it smart, you can put it in the right places. And yes, you can actually enjoy that in your retirement tax-free.
Tax-free.
Okay, one of the best terms in the world, tax-free.
Tax-free is good. and it's legal. And that's the and I talked to these small business people about this, and they're not big corporates, but they might have 15 staff and turning over $2 or $3 million bucks,
sure.
Right? And we'll talk about super, and we'll say, did you also know that if you went broke, because you're in business and, you could go broke, unlikely because it's established, but let's just say one of your staff members siphoned a whole bunch of cash out and you couldn't pay your bills, you could go broke. Did you know that all of your superannuation assets are protected from bankruptcy?
See, I didn't know that either.
Didn't you?
No, I did not.
Mate, that's true.
Oh,
you are it's a haven from bankruptcy.
Right.
And Alan Bond changed it slightly when he did a dodgy. Remember Alan Bond from the old days?
I'm a big fan of Alan, I'm not going to lie. No, I'm a big fan.
I'm a big fan too.
Yeah, the man changed Perth forever.
But he tried to move so much of his money into super.
Right.
And he did just before he went broke, when Bond Corporation went broke.
Yeah, okay.
And that was the catalyst for the rules to change.
Gotcha.
So if the ATO can prove that you deliberately and dodgily, not a real word, transferred your money in because you knew you were going to go broke, then it could be unwound. But if it's just an unfortunate situation, if you're going broke, you've only 500 or 600 grand in super, the creditors can't get hold of it.
Okay. So, say if you've done this on a continuous thing through the entire business, continually is topping up. Yeah, that
no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's the intent.
Yeah, of course.
It's just the dodgy intent.
Yeah.
I want to protect all my money. I'm going to stick it into super because I'll go broke next week.
Yep.
Well, sorry, you've got problems with that. But if it's just like nearly everybody, just innocent, something went wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And it happens.
It happens. Wife leave you, can cause grief. Or your husband leaves you. And so therein lies another great thing for small business people to know about the benefits of super. Yeah. It's a bloody great tax planning tool. It's a great place to have your assets when you retire. It's a great haven of your assets from creditors if you go broke.
Jeff, a lot of business owners follow, and are very much part of the journey with us here at Edge. Okay, a lot of businesses. Yeah. I'm quite sure that a lot of them would not have known that information. I mean, I'm absolutely new to it. That is really important. No one wants to go broke, okay? No one wants bankruptcy. But let's be absolutely frank, when you're in business, that is a reality that is always it's the grim reaper at the door, right?
Your personal guarantees everywhere.
Yeah.
Your personal guarantees, they're out there if you own your home. If your partner owns the home, that's okay. But sometimes you can't have that luxury.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is a great way.
Your assets on the line.
It's winner, right? You've got protection, and you're also building your wealth for your future, right? I wish I'd known.
Yeah, and so that's just building bridge the knowledge gap, bridge the money gap. Lots of gaps need bridging.
Right. All right. Well, shall we bridge again next week?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
On that front, it's great to have you here on a Thursday, mate. We have changed today.
Yes.
We used to be here.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's really good actually.
Yes.
We for those who are used to the show being on Tuesday, thank you very much for making your way over to Thursday for us. And of course, the great thing about social media, you can watch this anytime you like. Go to the Edge Radio Australia YouTube page. Do all those YouTubey things. You like, you subscribe, you do all that. Actually, you've got a couple of other pages out there as well, mate, that might be worth talking about.
We have, yeah. So our novated leasing business keeps rocking along, especially with these electric vehicles that are saving so much money. A guy got an $87,000 Hyundai electric car the other day from us.
Right.
We organised the whole thing. His total tax savings over a 29-year lease was 48 grand. I know.
What?
I know, it's the most generous tax concession ever. So nclo.com.au is our novated leasing website.
On the screen. Fantastic to see.
Oh, great. There you go.
Look at that. We're getting some fantastic work from the producer's desk in there. Look at that. Lovely work from behind the glass.
Yeah, and there's other ways that we help clients make money is by making sure that if they think that they would qualify for a total and permanent disability insurance payout, all of our clients never believed that was possible until someone suggested it was possible. And then there's maybe 150, 200, a million of cash coming through. So Insurance Claims Solutions, it's a specialty service.com.au. So insuranceclaimsolutions.com.au is a...
Yeah, I've just popped that up there as well.
A lot of information. That helps a lot of people. It's a small number, but it's of people that can be helped. But it's a fabulous benefit if we can get some cash in.
Oh, why not?
To those guys.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so... and wealthbydesign.com.au.
And of course, we can book with you directly now. That is at
wealthbydesign, all one word, .com.au, and just go on there and just find a calendar button, link, click on that, and just book into my diary. And we give 15 minutes-ish. Often it always goes over because there's too many questions, but that's no cost, no obligation. So it's a lot of people take advantage of it.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you very much. It's been great to have you, Jeff. As I say, see you next week, 3:30 on Thursday. Looking forward to it. It's, of course, Wealth by Design here on Edge Radio Australia.